Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football 2019.
I did a good job putting the camera back in place.
You
I'm pretty
did.
proud of myself, actually.
I didn't have to mess with it at all. You were all set.
Look at me doing things right, finally, for once.
We are Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. Welcome back. It is time for some 2019 content for you guys. We are moving on to next season. Hope you guys are all ready for this. We are joined. All three of us are here, ready to go. Down in our remote studio, we've got Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 Ps. Hopefully y'all are doing better than me after that Bears loss.
See, I'm Nick Sparts. I'm already dead inside. None of my teams made the playoffs, so you two just get to join me. I got Dan Theory to my right here.
At 3 BFF, pretty sad that the Ravens decided not to show up, at least offensively. But you know what? It was a good year for all teams.
Go Colts.
Go Colts. Go Luck.
Go Rams?
Yeah.
Out of the NFC, that's the only team I'd root for.
Yeah, Rams, and then the AFC, it's the Colts, and I like the Chiefs too.
Chiefs, Colts.
Chargers.
I wouldn't mind seeing
Chargers.
Rivers get a ring.
You know what? As long as it's not the Patriots or the Cowboys, I'm probably fine.
Or Philly.
Or Saints.
Or the Saints. So
I don't mind. I don't mind New Orleans. Philly can
Yeah.
roll on.
Nate-
Not that I don't hate Philly either. I think it's after you lose to Philly that you hate Philly.
That's yeah, true. Nick hates the Saints a little bit more than I do. I don't really hate him as much as I used to, but
All right.
Nick hates Sean Payton, I think.
no, Drew Brees because he killed the Gophers when he played for Purdue.
Yeah,
all
I
those
didn't like
years
Drew Brees
back.
before he even declared for the NFL.
See,
so-
I hate Greg Williams more so than anybody else from that 09 team.
All right. Well, a couple things before we get to today's content. We are Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Beerfield Fantasy Football. If you want to catch the show on YouTube and see the video content, you'll either get posted videos or live streams. Not quite sure what we're going to do. If we do live stream it, go ahead and drop questions. Otherwise, if you got any Dynasty questions for us and we do a recorded video, just go ahead and drop comments on them. We'll get answers for you as quickly as we can on those. Or tweet at the show, Beerfield FF, and we'll answer the questions for you there as well. We are 365 Dynasty content show, even if we go redraft heavy in season. On today's episode, we're going to go ahead and cover all the news that dropped on Black Monday, go ahead and cover for you guys all the rookie content from the 2018 rookie class and how they did in their first fantasy season here. So hopefully you guys are all ready for that. But before we hit all of that content, we got to get to let you know what is fueling us on today's episode. And to start 2019, we're going international.
That's right.
We got Banana Bread by Wells on here in the primary studio. It's from Bedford, England. First time we've had them on the show. It's a 5.2% ABV banana-flavored ale called Banana Bread. And then what do we have down in the remote studio?
In the remote studio, we have Oddside Ales Rye Hipster Brunch Stout.
I'm so happy for you right now.
Yeah,
Brewed by
for you.
Oddside Ales out of Grand Haven, Michigan. This is a rye stout brewed with maple syrup, aged in rye whiskey barrels with coffee and bacon added.
It is fucking incredible.
This is a direct recommendation from Dan, actually. The last time I was in his place of employment, he put it in my basket and said, "You're buying this." So,
That's pretty much how it went down, actually.
All right. So Dan is a pusher. He pushes people.
I mean, I was at work, so I'm just doing my job. Buy this
and
beer
I
now.
remember very well the first time I had Wells Banana Bread. I think Nick knocked over my beer, and I said, "I don't care what you replace it with, just buy me something." And that's what he bought me.
That would have been definitely a craft beer bar.
It's a craft, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and jump into all the news. All right. We already got Todd Bowles and I'm trying to remember the other one who was fired already before. Dirk Cutter were already fired before we got to this list. These are the ones who were fired after our last episode, starting with Cardinals fired coach Steve Wilkes after just one season.
I'm not surprised at all here.
No, that should have happened, basically. He didn't the defense was average and the offense did nothing. It did nothing to keep his job or really show that they could do a whole lot.
With the talent they had out there, how did this GM keep his job?
That I don't know.
Because it's was Steve Kelm, I think his name is, or Keim.
Yeah, he's probably got 1 year left, and if it doesn't work, he's probably out.
Yeah, I'm thinking
the coach was probably the fall guy in this point.
But yeah, he'd missed multiple big draft picks. He got a DUI and got suspended from the team for a few weeks over the season. Yeah, the GM.
I want to party with him.
GM.
Shit. Don't.
Oh, the owner or the president of operations?
Yeah, that was the president, maybe.
Well, no. I'm not saying who did it. I'm just saying that's so weird.
Yeah.
That you would suspend your top executive. Whatever. Anyway.
Cardinals just seem to be a weird run organization, and what was it, about 3 years ago, I said, I think this is a team that's going to be dropping in a hurry, and they've even surpassed my expectations.
Well,
you know who can't get suspended for a DUI? My favorite NFL owner, Jim Irsay.
All right, let's move on to the next firing where the Broncos got rid of Vance Joseph.
He is no longer having the time of his life.
Though he may land on his feet. He's interviewing for the head coaching job with the Bengals, apparently.
HC?
Yeah.
I thought maybe go back to being a DC again.
Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is interviewing for this, actually, with the Broncos.
For that job?
Yeah.
I know a bunch of people have turned down the Cardinals job.
Not for the Cardinals job, for the Broncos job.
Yeah, I'm just stepping back for a second. I'm saying the Cardinals job, people have straight up turned that one down.
Yeah, it's a weird run organization. That's how they ended up with Wilkes, too, isn't it? He wasn't option A.
I don't think so. There's just not a lot of things I like there either. That's sort of Rosen.
And that's a maybe.
And Kurt, and those are
You're basically taking a job during a rebuild that's probably going to get you fired in 2 years, and you're not going to be the one that reaps the benefits of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Except they don't want to admit it's a rebuild.
Unless you're Todd Bowles and you figure out a way to win more games than you should.
Exactly.
Next one is Dolphins fired coach Adam Gase. They apparently will also be looking to get rid of Tannehill, so this team is going to go into a full rebuild.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah.
I don't know how they were. What would they end up? 7 and 8?
7 and 9.
7 and 9. Still, I don't know how they won 7 games.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I also don't know why everyone is lining up to interview Adam Gase either.
Because Adam Gase as an offensive coordinator is very, very good. And I think if he had a little bit more talent, because, I mean, you got Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback, entrenched. You brought in Frank Gore as your, for whatever reason. And then your wide receivers are Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker. You get it. I think you give Gase talent, he can do something with it.
Yeah, but on the flip side, he had like his inability to use Kenyon Drake and things like that also raised some massive.
Well,
they
got rid of Ajayi after Ajayi's big year. I mean, we don't know really what Drake is as a full-time running back. They never use him.
Well, and really, Dow Logans is not good. So I think that he was the offensive coordinator for Miami.
Yeah.
So I think that you bring Gase in, maybe not as a head coach, but as an OC or a head coach. That
I know what he's being interviewed as is as a head coach.
Well, he needs to keep offensive play calling then.
All right, and then the last one we've got is Bengals fired coach Marvin Lewis. This apparently
3 years too late.
Yeah, it should have been after the playoff game against the Steelers.
It's okay. They're trying to work it up with Hugh Jackson.
They better not hire Hugh Jackson.
The fact that we had 2 days of him potentially becoming the Vikings' new OC, I probably drank too much.
By the way, something I love, and I think you guys are gonna love, a rumor for the Bucks job, just kind of off script here. Bruce Arians.
That was
that would be fun.
That brought sunlight, sunshine to my day after hearing that.
That would be fantastic
for everybody involved.
All right, moving on to some coordinator positions here, where NFL.com's Ian Rappaport reports Lions and OC Jim Bob Cooter agreed to mutually part ways.
I'm interested to see where he lands. I don't think him and Patricia mesh with what they wanted to do.
Not even a little bit.
Because Patricia wants to be a fundamental, run the football, old school type of coordinator, and that's not what Jim Bob Cooter is.
No, Cooter wants 3 weapons outside and throw him the ball 70 times.
Yep. So I am very interested to see where Jim Bob lands.
He's definitely not going to Minnesota.
No. That
Not there.
No.
unless you want to see Jim Bob get murdered halfway through the season, he's not going to Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah, because he won't mesh with Zimmer either. Defensive head coaches and offensive coordinators that like to throw, usually a bad matchup.
Usually.
Falcons fire their entire coordinating staff. Sarkisian, Marquand Manuel, and Keith Armstrong all out. So
Sarkisian's a mixed bag for me, as most of you know. I was calling for him to be fired last year, and then he actually made improvements this year, and then got canned. So don't know how I feel about that. Part of me is happy, part of me is not. I thought that they showed progress on the offensive side of the football, and I definitely don't think the offense was the problem. Defense was.
yeah, and part of the concern I have here is what we've seen multiple times now with the last couple coordinators have come in with Matt Ryan is it usually takes a full season just to kind of get it together. So now we're having to pull another reboot here on this
Right.
offense.
Right. I thought Sarkisian was fine this year. In his second year, I thought that having the running game struggled a little bit, but they
I mean, the offensive
also
line was
laid
hurt.
back.
They had no Freeman this year.
The entire team was hurt. I mean, like, you're talking about a guy who didn't get much of a chance. I don't know about this Manuel guy, but you lose your entire secondary in the first 2-3 weeks of the year.
Mhm.
Not much you can do with that.
Well, and they fired. Didn't they have a different defensive coordinator too? Wasn't the same guy that came up, or am I mixing that up?
You might be thinking of the Bucks who fired Mike Smith.
I am thinking of the Bucks.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
All right, Cardinals fired offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. There were some
Usually.
rumors they may keep him around.
yeah, I Leftwich got thrown into that with not much on offense, and being a former player, a young coach by coaching standards, with a long tenured NFL backup career, I think he'll land someplace. I don't know if it'll be as an OC. I think he got thrown into the OC role a little too early.
Yeah, I could definitely see him ending up on Arian's staff if Arian ends up getting hired somewhere.
I could too. That would actually that's a really good call.
Yep.
All right, Raiders hired NFL Network's Mike Mayock to be their general manager, so watching the draft is going to suck now.
This is interesting. So I went back and looked at Mayock's picks, and overall, he's not been terrible compared to some people. Looking at you, weird-haired dude from ESPN, whose name I can't remember, Mel Kiper.
I was going to say, how do you forget Mel Kiper? He's
Anyway.
Because you want to forget Mel Kiper.
You want to forget Mel Kiper. So looking at you, that part hasn't been bad. It's the other parts that, and I like an analyst coming in that is probably going to have success with his drafts, honestly. But the thing that concerns me is trades and contract negotiations and the other parts of the job that he hasn't necessarily been exposed to.
Well, they brought in somebody else to help him. I forgot the name.
They have a contract guy on staff. So, but it seems to me like they're trying to turn this into the Vegas reality sports franchise more than an actual well-run team.
And like, even if like he makes the proper picks, as Hopper pointed out, it's what can you do afterwards? Is he going to bring on the right coaches, the right the right environment to bring up some of these prospect players in the day 3 realm?
And how is his management skills? Because part of being a good general manager is the management part, where you're actually handling the scout infrastructure, the people are handling facilities, the doctors for the team. All this stuff are under the GM's infrastructure in the front office, and he has to be in charge of all of that. So there's a ton of skills that go to it more than just being a draft geek.
This is almost like a Hail Mary. This is like the Raiders trying to save face for the Gruden thing. Like, this is probably going to blow up in their face. It's going to be fun for a little bit. He's going to make some good picks, and then
No, I'm gonna enjoy watching it.
it's gonna
make great TV.
I'm getting my popcorn ready for this.
But if I was a Raiders fan, I'd be like, there's way more downside than upside here.
You know what, though? I'm going to take a different approach. I like it because it's different. You haven't necessarily seen any team take this approach. It's something people haven't tried before. It's a path that's untreaded. You haven't seen an network analyst make a trek to GM, and it's just hope for my future as GM of the Bears.
So Hopper now has his career path lined up.
That's right. He's a trendsetter. He's a trailblazer for where I want to end up in
So
life.
Mike Mayock is now your hero. Got it.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let's go into a quick run through the players who declared, and we've got one player returning. Starting off with probably the biggest name for quarterbacks that have declared early so far is Daniel Jones, quarterback of Duke. He may be a top 15 or 20 pick.
Really?
I'll have to look at this. This is, to me, on the surface, looks like it's Trubisky's situation without having watched tape or looked into anything, so we'll see.
It's the first time I'm hearing his name.
He's considered probably the second or third best QB in this draft class, along with Locke and Haskins.
Okay.
Then we got Tyree Jackson, quarterback Buffalo. He was actually originally looking to grad transfer and then just declared.
Yeah, I saw his name came up too. A lot of these guys haven't watched it. I started to film this week, but I don't think I've touched anybody here.
Nope.
All right. Another year, we're going to be watching more Penn State tape. Miles Sanders is declaring.
I don't mind watching Penn State tape, honestly.
I agree.
Elijah Holyfield, running back Georgia. This is guys considered probably a top 5 to 8 back in this class.
Yeah, he's his tapes looked. I watched a little bit of Riley Ridley, and this guy stood out.
I'm excited to watch him. I'm more excited to see Jake Fromm when I'm watching that tape.
Get ready for 2020.
Yes.
Jake Fromm, since he took over as a freshman, I've just been waiting like in the wings for Jake Fromm. I'm excited for Jake Fromm.
Trayvon Williams, running back Texas A&M.
We'll see when I watch the tape.
Yep.
And then we got, and then I kind of try to do these in order from the buzz I've heard. James Williams, running back Washington State. I've heard a little bit about. He's more of a pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Travis Homer will be a pass catcher. He's 185 pounds, running back Miami.
Jesus.
And then Jordan Scarlett, running back Florida. He was one of the ones who was tied up with Antonio Callaway's off-field issues.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see if P. Ryan out of Florida declares.
Mm-hmm. Another P. Ryan.
He's the one that's getting a ton of hype there, though.
Okay.
Not necessarily Jordan Scarlett, even though there's apparently some things to like about Scarlett. I've seen him play a little bit. Didn't really see it. I haven't seen a lot of it's Michael P. Ryan, so I'm excited to see that if he declares.
All right. Then onto the wide receivers, where Marquise Brown declared Oklahoma. He's supposed to be the Tyreek Hill type player.
Yep.
Better known as Hollywood, and we saw a lot of Hollywood Brown on Baker Mayfield tape.
JJ, and it's Arcega Whiteside.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Wide receiver Stanford.
I remember seeing a decent amount of him too in something.
All right. Another year, another UCF wide receiver, Diedrich Snelson, Central Florida.
Me.
Then Riley Ridley, wide receiver, Georgia, and this is apparently going to cause a lot of debates between the stats guys and the tape guys.
I mean, like if you for
The stats
listener
aren't
out there, our buddy Miguel, Dynasty Guru, has been shitting on really, and he's been getting into it with some of the people out there that have watched his tape. I watched a little bit, and he's small from what I've seen. I think he's 6. I think
6 foot even.
6'2", 200. I think is what I saw from him. So
I mean, that's not that
That's not
small.
bad.
he looks big. He looks smaller on tape though.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Then another Georgia guy. I've never heard of this one. Mecole Hardman.
I haven't either.
Nope.
I like the name. Meekle.
Mecole.
Then we got Darius Slayton, wide receiver, Auburn.
Okay.
And then Dylan Mitchell, wide receiver, Oregon. And the write-up I heard on this one is why was when Mitchell declared.
Right, so he's not going to be any good.
They said they didn't even think he's going to be.
In what regard, though? Why is in
Like,
terrible?
why is he declaring? Because they don't think he's going to get drafted. He probably could have used another year to even try
Who
to.
was the guy last year that did that? Quadri Henderson. Was it a Quadri Henderson why to where it was, yeah, you don't have the talent, or is it a Noah Brown why? Like, you got the talent, but you should have stayed in school a little bit.
A Noah Brown type,
Okay.
where there may have been something here, but as of now, he has no hype and he's not going to get
Yeah,
drafted.
this is not the draft class I probably would have come.
And then got a couple tight ends. We got Zach Gentry, tight end Michigan, who's got some hype for him.
Okay.
And then Isaac Nada, tight end Georgia.
Okay.
Good to
Yeah,
know.
I agree with Dan, by the way. He made a little background comment there about how this is not the draft we would have come out in. Yeah, this is a very wide receiver stacked draft, and I noticed that when I put together the list. We have about 10 more wide receivers than running backs, and I don't think we've had that happen yet.
And we're probably not done adding wide
Yeah.
receivers.
No.
And like the best thing is that last year was a lot of wide receiver 2 and slot guys. This year's a lot of big guys. There's one name I've mentioned the Nick, and it's Tyler Johnson that I really hope declares because 53% dominator rating. He posted.
There's a guy.
Sky, you must stay in college.
I know.
Yeah, there's a guy I'm hoping more tape surfaces on that has declared. It was a LSU transfer to a small school named Jazz Ferguson that's 6'5", 223, and looks like he has some good jump ball and route ability.
Plus, his name is Jazz.
Yes, and his name is Jazz.
He's a bigger version.
I think Jazz, all I think is Uncle Phil, of his Uncle Phil throwing him out of the mansion.
Yes.
All right. And then we got one player returning who announced this week, and that is Colin Johnson, wide receiver from Texas. He started putting some tape together, but he didn't do quite enough to actually come out. Actually, we got another one here. I just spotted Tyreek Cleveland, wide receiver, Florida, also.
I haven't heard of him. Colin Johnson, I heard some hype on, though.
Yeah,
but
same here.
At the same time, again, this is probably the smarter move if you just started putting tape together. Come out next year, because this year is stacked with wide receiver talent.
Yeah, next year's supposed to be more of a running back class, so if you're a wide receiver, it's probably a good year to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our postseason check-in on the 2018 rookie class.
Postseason check-in.
I like it.
Starting up with the quarterbacks, we only got 6 who recorded any stats, one of which was completely out of left field, but then we'll get to him last. Starting with Baker Mayfield, 270.1 fantasy points. He finished as your QB 16 in 13.5 games played.
I'll go ahead and kick this one off. So, adjusted quarterback 12. And when I say adjusted...
Points per game?
No, I don't. Not points per game. This is where I'm taking out either stretches of injury or stretches where they didn't start, i.e. weeks 1 through 3 in Baker's case. So weeks 3 through 16, he was the quarterback 12.
Okay.
And since 1920, amongst rookies, minimum 3,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. Baker has the most touchdowns, most yards per game, lowest interception percentage, and second highest completion percentage to Dak Prescott. He was exceptional.
I mean, we loved him coming out of Oklahoma. I mean, if you've been listening to the show since draft season last year, you probably heard me and Hopper really gush over him.
I mean, he was my quarterback too. I wasn't that far off.
But you weren't on to our degree with that. I mean, I'm still crushing over him. The Browns are set for the future if they can.
They absolutely are, and they've been
this up.
denying interview requests for Freddie Kitchens. I think they're trying to keep him around,
as they should.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Up next, we've got Josh Allen, 220.1 fantasy points. He was your quarterback 21 in 11.5 games played. I knew he was athletic coming in, but I was not expecting that much rushing.
He improved a lot as the season went on, which is what I like to see. I sent out a tweet earlier on this, but I'm going to say it on the show too, at HotBFF on Twitter with 2 Ps. Weeks 1 through 6, he was a quarterback 28. Weeks 12 through 17, he was a quarterback 1. And yes, I said thank you, rushing yards. But taking the rushing out of it, his passing numbers improved, and I knew he could run. But this is what I really wanted to see. His touchdown to interception rate was 2 to 5 in that first 6-week stretch. 8 to 7 in the second week stretch. He took 21 sacks weeks 1 through 6 and only 7 weeks 12 through 17, and threw for 400 more yards.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, I hated on him pretty much throughout the entire process. I don't nick and I around that. Hopper saw the upside in, and we all saw the upside, coming into this season. I'm still shocked by this. Yeah, I know. I'm still shocked that he was able to put it all together. I still want to see him more. I still want to see when they, give him weapons and make him want to throw more. Because it saw like he decided to take off and run a lot more. It's just not a lot of, weapons there to throw to either.
And something I'll get to later also is the rapport between and how much him and Robert Foster is a match made in heaven. Because that Robert Foster's breakout coincided with the improved numbers of Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean they fit perfectly together.
Yep. Some other rookie seasons with higher than a 3% interception rate, under 60% completion, so it wasn't all good.
Yeah.
Minimum 250 attempts. Matthew Stafford, Cam Newton, Blake Bortles. So some guys that have had some staying power.
Yeah, I mean when I was watching him, It was Cam Newton, is what I saw was his rookie year.
The ceiling is Cam Newton and the floor is Blake Bortles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to hope that they can get an offense around him, that he can get the passing game together, because the legs are going to keep him relevant.
He's just got to be able to
Yeah.
keep hitting those short to intermediate throws. That's what's going to kill him in this league, where it's all you got to take underneath stuff when you can, and he struggled with that. And so if he can improve that, he'll be a guy that stays around for a long time.
Well, and that's why I wanted to call out what I did also, because there were marked passing game improvements from before the injury to after the injury. In jumping that touchdown interception rate up and lowering those sack numbers that drastically shows you're not holding the ball as much, and you're taking off and using your athleticism more. I think that it was encouraging to see improvements from Josh Allen.
Yes.
All right.
I agree.
On to Sam Darnold, our third place finisher, 187.4 fantasy points, 13 games played. Your quarterback 28.
I'm excited to see what the Jets do in terms of their receiving core. I still don't understand why they brought back was it Quincy Enunwa? Not Quincy Enunwa.
Yeah, they gave him a 4-year deal.
It was a new one.
Yeah. I like his rapport that he built with Robbie Anderson. I mean, obviously he was one of our MVPs in the playoff. And there's that for a reason. He made a lot of improvements as the season went along. Needs to stay healthy a little bit. But when they get a true running game, put together, I love his rapport with Chris Herndon. Again, I'm pumped to see what he can turn into.
Yeah, Baker's obviously significantly further along, but Darnold, I think on paper, from what we saw the first season, looks like he's the most likely to turn into your number 2 prototypical quarterback out of this class. Allen's got some stuff going on where he may turn into more of a runner type player, and he may have a lot of success with it, but I don't know that he'll ever be quite the same prototypical quarterback that Darnold and Mayfield can be.
Well, we loved Mayfield. I mean, like, not just us, but all stats guys, a lot of film grinders who liked Mayfield all recognize that he was probably the most complete coming into this, with his limited upside in terms of his frame and what he can do athletically.
I wasn't trying to transition back to Mayfield.
I know. I'm
just
just saying that's where Darnold, could elevate him from and be something more, which is what we saw and pointed out.
And he's the youngest of these guys. He's only barely 21 right now.
Yeah, that was the other note I made. He was still young, just 22 entering next season. Still only 21, like Nick said. He'll be 22 at the start of next season. And he had just 1 interception over his last 4 weeks. 7 of his interceptions came in 2 games. So I think if they surround him, you're going to see some improvement from Darnold next year. Him and Josh Allen are 2 guys that I'm real interested in keeping an eye on. Josh Rosen less so. But Josh Allen and Sam Darnold are 2 guys I'm interested in seeing take steps next season to be guys we're talking about as streamers on a week-to-week basis versus, don't start. And Allen hit that at the end of this year, but I think when we hit about week 8, 9 next season, we're going to be talking about Darnold in the same light.
All right, let's go to number 4, Lamar Jackson, 164.5 fantasy points, quarterback 29. Effectively 7 games played, but he got snaps in every single game this season. But it was mostly used just a wildcat decoy for just a couple plays most games.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of his flaws today, though, if you watch the playoff game. And really it was a lot of college. It's just he still needs some refining as a passer. He has flashed throughout the season. He tossed for over 200 yards just 1 time. I think the scheme protected him. Even though the peripheral numbers look good, the Chargers were the first team he'd played twice, and they adjusted, and they kept him mostly in check until they were playing off and soft at the end of the game. And the NFL will adjust to Lamar Jackson. He'll adjust to his athleticism, and he's going to have to learn to beat people with his arm, which is the one thing that he hasn't necessarily showed us that he can do yet.
Yeah, if teams can sell out just to stop him running, they'll figure out how to do it. He needs to be able to pass successfully in this league, or it's not going to happen.
Yep, and what Gus Bradley was doing today was he was playing safeties at linebacker in order to do it, and it worked out.
So just all speed?
Yes, he was just going complete speed. He was playing a lot of safeties at middle linebacker, at times having 3 safeties in the game and in the box.
Which is smart, which is what we called out at the end of the season, why I thought teams should have done this even before playing him in general. I mean, you can still see film from his other games, it took him this long to get adjusted to, which is a bit concerning. But I expect the Ravens to attack the offensive woes in terms of the receiving game. Gus Edwards is not the running back of the future for Baltimore, so I do expect him to address that too. And his ceiling, Vic, if he's lucky. But he's, like you guys said, he's got to get far better as a passer and make people, pay. He's got to try to be that Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott, as a runner.
His ceiling is definitely Vic, but the Vic comparisons when he was coming into the league were off base because he was not nearly as refined.
No, I completely agree.
All right. Coming in number 5, Josh Rosen, 123.9 fantasy points, quarterback 34. He played 13.5 games, was real ugly.
If you take college tape and transpose it to the league and just with no improvement, that's exactly what Josh Rosen was. He took 45 sacks, was almost constantly under pressure, had only a 33% completion percentage while he was under pressure, which is 22nd in the league. His protection rate was 36th in the league. When Josh Rosen is under pressure, Josh Rosen cannot perform. If the Cardinals improve their offensive line, Josh Rosen will perform. But this is a college problem we had with Josh Rosen, every single one of us, and it showed up in the NFL.
Yep, he did absolutely nothing this year. It was pretty awful to watch, but
this is let's see what the Cardinals do, because there is upside, as Hopper pointed out to him.
There is, but he has a couple major flaws that I saw no improvement in. In fact, they often got worse as the year went along, and it seemed like his confidence got shaken.
Yeah.
You got to protect him.
Yeah.
If you don't protect him, there's going to be no confidence there, and that's what we said about him coming out, too, is if he's not protected, he's not going to perform.
All right, and then just kind of a weird throwaway here. Number 6 and the last quarterback to get stats. Kyle Allen, who I think I was the only one who watched any tape on, and I thought it was garbage. 28
I watched him too and agreed with you. It was garbage, and somehow he looked good.
Yep, 28.5 fantasy points, quarterback 47 in the one game he started.
Yeah, somehow he looked better than Jake Heineke, who was our current backup. So
Tyler Heineke.
What's that?
Tyler Heineke.
Well, oh yeah, Tyler Heineke.
I don't know who Jake is.
I just combined Jake Heineke and Tyler.
I was going to say,
Heineke, I guess. I think it was Taylor Heineke, not Tyler, by the way.
Taylor, there we go. Yeah. I knew it was a T. I knew it wasn't Jake.
Somebody we don't care about enough to know their name. But yes, I combined Jake Heineke and Taylor Heineke. That's what happened there.
Where did he come out of college, Kyle?
What's that?
Kyle was TMAU, wasn't it? Or Houston or something?
It was a small Texas school.
That's right, because you guys told me not to watch this tape.
I think
that's right.
No, because he was the one who took over after Manziel in Texas A&M, and then he transferred out to Houston. That's what his story was.
Because you watched him first, and you basically told us not to watch him.
He was the first player I watched in the 2018 rookie class.
I'm sorry.
Because I did alphabetically.
He was one of the last ones I watched, but either way, somehow he looked decent. So maybe he's the backup of the future there. I don't know.
And then just based on what we saw in preseason, there wasn't any other quarterback that I'm really even that concerned about that came out of this class that I think has any sort of big future ahead of him.
No, Mike White performed a little bit with Dallas, but we saw that out of Cooper Rush beforehand. So maybe in a few years, you're looking at a type of situation where backup becomes a bridge quarterback out of him. But
there's nearly nobody else. I'll still be intrigued by Mason Rudolph to see what Pittsburgh can do with that whole situation.
The fact that he couldn't jump Josh Dobbs is not a good sign.
No, that's what I'm about to say. That he did not make any improvements in the preseason.
And Kyle Lauletta is not something I'm interested in either.
God, no.
Everyone clamoring for when is Lauletta going to start? It's like no.
People cheering for the Patriots, or not Patriots. That was a Giants draft pick. Right?
Just let it happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to running backs here. Where Saquon Barkley almost matched Zeke's rookie year, had a 347.3 fantasy points, finished as your RB2, 16 games played.
So I tweeted this out too at Hot BFF on Twitter with 2 piece. List of guys to ever have over 2,000 scrimmage yards, 15 touchdowns, and 70 receptions, or at least notable ones. Priest Holmes, Marshall Faulk, David Johnson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Steven Jackson, Ray Rice, and Saquon Barkley. Barkley was 2 years younger than anybody else that had ever done it. There are only 3 guys that repeated that feat, and they were in back-to-back seasons. And no one's done it more than twice. So, first off, expect the same out of Saquon next year. because apparently if you're going to repeat, it's in back-to-back years. But
And 2, he's probably the first guy that does it 3 times.
He probably
I
will.
I think he will be because I don't know that anybody else did it in that young. I think maybe LT was 23 and 24 when it happened.
Yeah, but not 21.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you want to add on Barkley? He just matched
This-
our expectations.
I think he was over for me. I mean, like I expected great things. I didn't expect this.
I didn't
expect
necessarily.
him a little bit more of every,
I didn't expect quite this much out of him as a rookie, but I did expect him to finish as a top 5 or 6 player. So if he's number 2, I consider that within the range of expectations.
Oh yeah, it's just how that there. That's good.
It was the high end of my range of expectations, but it was
Yes.
in my expectations.
He was very good.
All right. A guy who we didn't watch, so was not in our range of expectations. Number 2 running back is Philip Lindsay at 208.3 fantasy points. Running back 12, played 15
I
games.
don't know how many people actually watched him.
I spotted his name on a few lists. We never ended up getting to him, and he just blew up.
I just hope that with all the new, changes in Denver, that he doesn't get washed away. And that's where my only real concern is no draft capital. If if they keep changing coaches and shit like that, it could hurt him. But he's done enough to where he should.
And
he
earn
basically
it.
played the C.J. Anderson role. He had over 1,000 yards rushing, 240 yards receiving, total 10 touchdowns, but did kind of fade at the end of the season a little bit before he got hurt.
his splits pre and post Sanders injury were pretty drastic
Yeah,
because he dropped off a cliff as soon as that happened.
he did because he didn't have room to work because Tim Patrick isn't opening up the passing game for you.
Darn. Damn you, Tim Patrick.
Damn you, Sim Patrick.
All right. Yeah, I think Lindsay, for me, I personally view him as more of a sell. You guys were a little more high on him.
No, I view him as a sell. I've never been high on Philip Lindsay.
No, I'm all about trying to, get max value for him at this point.
To me, he's like Gus Edwards too. I think there's some fool's gold there.
That could be.
I mean, I think at this point, it's just whoever the Ravens running back is at the end of the season is just an auto sell unless they draft
Until
somebody.
they bring in somebody or they draft somebody that's got some pedigree to him.
All right, up next, Nick Chubb. We talked about him a ton last episode, 188.5 fantasy points, running back 16 in 16 games
This
played.
is a guy I'd be trying to buy.
Good luck.
That's what I'm saying. I'd still try to.
Was a running back 7 after snagging the starting role in week 7, 5.2 yards per attempt, 62.3 yards per game, 996 total yards. Snagged 2 touchdowns and 20 and 29 in the receiving game. Comparable rookie seasons to him: Jordan Howard, LeGarrette Blount, Clinton Portis, Adrian Peterson, Ryan Grant, Jeremy Hill. So, mixed bag there with those names I just mentioned. Overall, though, Nick Chubb doing that in only
Half a season, basically.
half a season essentially is amazing, and he's going to be an absolute buy him if you can, hold him if you got him. Don't sell him low unless you get absolutely blown away with an offer, because I think he is the real deal, and I think it's gonna majorly pay off next season. You could be looking at Z type numbers.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, because you mentioned Jordan Howard, and I thought about, Nick Chubb and where he could go from here. I hope he, can become a Joe Mixon type where he can be involved more in the passing game, show that more in the passing game, and not fall into a Jordan Howard type of where he doesn't get used, because Duke Johnson is still there. I don't know what they're going to do with him after
It
giving him
all
the
depends on what happens with the offensive coordinator and what type of coach they bring in, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think Chubb is ever going to be relegated to Jordan Howard type, though, where he's basically viewed as a pure runner outside of occasional splashes, like in a week or two stretch. But I don't think he's ever going to beat Joe Mixon type.
Well, I use Joe Mixon because he, his usage in the passing game obviously upticked more this year, but he still had. I throw on the name of recency, who, people, I don't know how many people were sold on him. As
The
much
numbers
pass
were
catch as
very
we were.
comparable to Jordan Howard this year, but Jordan Howard had a full season to do it, and it was his worst season.
True.
All right.
So, and Chubb's a much better, at this point in his career, a better receiver. I do think Howard made some amazing strides in his receiving game over the last couple of years, but Chubb at this point in his career is a way better receiver than
Yeah,
Howard.
I mean,
was as a
yeah.
rookie.
Yeah, Howard went from worst in the NFL to okay.
Yeah, at least league average.
All right. Up next, we got Sony Michel, 139.6 fantasy points, running back 28 in 13 games played. Kind of everything that we said could happen with Sony Michel happened. He had some blow-up games. He had some duds where they just didn't really use him. He got vultured at the goal line by a fullback. He had an injury issue with his knee pop-up. So kind of like every scenario that could have come place came true in a single season for Sony Michel.
I still want to sell him. I do.
I don't blame you. He saw 20 attempts just once after Burkhead returned from IR. Only 7 receptions with James White there as he assumed the rusher role, more so in New England. 931 yards, 6 touchdowns in 13 games. Those are good numbers. That's likely going to be his role, though, as long as James White exists. There's going to be no PPR upside to him at all.
And who knows what that offense could turn into as soon as the Brady and the Belichick years are over with, and you don't have that type of luxury to play,
On the flip side, the next coach may come in and ride him as a workhorse.
You could, but, doesn't he have a degenerate knee? Is that right? I'm probably saying it wrong because I always say shit wrong. But
Well, he's got a degenerative knee condition, I believe, is what you're looking for.
So, JJ.
Yep.
yeah, there is some concerns of whether or not he could handle a full season workload. I know he did it a bit at Georgia, but, can he do it for more than one season,
though,
too?
and degenerative means it gets worse as it goes on.
So...
All right. So, yeah, he's definitely an interesting case. We'll be keeping a close eye on him this offseason. And because the Patriots could always be a team, too, where out of nowhere they could just bring in another running back and make the situation even
wouldn't
muddier.
shock me.
Yeah.
Up next, number 5. This one surprised me a little bit. Nyheim Hines, 129.4 fantasy points. He was the running back 33 in 16 games played.
He had some big games with when Mac was out. So
It wasn't even just when Mac was out. He had
That's
81
true, too.
targets, which is what surprised me the most. To just only 85 rushes. It was a less extreme version of James White, though. Similar volume, but even fewer rushes for White. Previous years. But the area that really hurt Nyheim Hines, 6.7 yards per reception. He needs to get better in that area if he's going to be fantasy relevant.
Definitely agree with that. Basically, the only times he had good games is when he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, so to put that in perspective, that was last amongst running backs with more than 60 receptions at 6.7 yards per. You want him to be up in the 8 to 9 range if he's getting that type of volume in the receiving game to be fantasy relevant. That's where Duke Johnson sits. That's where Theo Riddick normally sits. And so as much as I don't think the presence of Marlon Mack hurt him in the receiving game, he just didn't produce with what he was given.
he's also game script. As the defense got better, they didn't need to use him as much because defense wasn't up to this level. Early on in the season when they were still battling back, when Luck was throwing the ball 60 times a fucking game, and that went down to more of the 35-ish range where he mostly ended up. So it's gonna be all about touches for him. Limited involvement in that offense in terms of a runner because he can't really do much. It's
All right. Let's move on to Kerryon Johnson, though, here, just because I don't know that Hines ever becomes a major fantasy asset of any kind. Kerryon Johnson, 12.5 fantasy points per game, but unfortunately only played 10 games, finishes as your running back 34.
Running back 13 adjusted and for weeks 3 through 11, which is a 100-yard game to the injury.
Yep, that was his good stretch. So when he's on the field, he looks like the real deal, but the injury is definitely a concern.
that was his concern coming out of Auburn, was that he just couldn't stay healthy, and you got all of that this season.
Volume is a concern right now also until Blunt hopefully retires, but no games with over 20 rush attempts and no games over 25 touches.
Are you trying to buy him or sell him after this season? Or is he more of a hold?
If I have him, I'm holding him. If I don't own him, I may check the temperature.
Yeah,
because I could see an owner having very different feelings about him depending on who they are.
Because this is kind of like the Michel situation in terms of we got to see the flaws, especially the injury concerns, not flaws, more so show up in this season.
It was the injury concerns, which is exactly the only reason we didn't carry on Johnson, because as a receiver, 32 of 39 targets, it's good efficiency. He had the best rush efficiency in the class. He beat Lindsey by by 3/100ths of a yard, basically. but minimum 100 carries there. He was efficient with his touches. He was good in the receiving game, even though the volume wasn't there and the injuries are concerned. So you got a mixed bag with Kerryon.
All right. So that's all I got in Kerryon. Let's speed this up a little bit now. We're going to drop to guys who scored less than 100 fantasy points. So we'll keep this as more just a quick touch in. Up number 7 is Royce Freeman, 94.3. He was RB 46 in 14 games played.
I will forever hate Philip Lindsay for ruining him for me. He saw less than 10 rush attempts after his return, so unless he can somehow jump Philip Lindsay or Lindsay misses the start of next season, meh.
I buy him for cheap to see where the owner is at because I still believe in the talent. I still believe in with it. If I can get him for cheap.
Yeah, you need to get a run game, though, that's not so reliant on explosive plays, which is why Lindsay worked and he
Everything's
didn't.
changed in there, so that's why.
Yep.
I wouldn't hate him.
I like him as a cheap buy, though.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards, 91.8 fantasy points, running back 48 in 11 games played.
Sell, and sell.
Sell, and sell. He's running back 14 weeks, 11 through 17, but I think he's fool's gold. Below average juke rate, evaded tackles rate, yards created per carry. Lamar Jackson as a rusher, I think, greatly benefited Gus Edwards.
Yep. Yeah, about the only good trade he has is he's really good out of a read option, and he doesn't take negative plays.
It was a perfect scheme fit for him.
Ito Smith, 84.2 fantasy points, running back 53.
I
Okay.
don't know how I feel about him.
I'll go ahead and talk. Just 3.5 yards per attempt. Caught 27 of 30 targets for 152 yards. Just okay rookie year, I guess. Not necessarily Tevin Coleman levels of efficiency, but the running game in general added down here. New OC incoming, so who knows? And Coleman's got that impending free agency.
Yeah. So hold and see what happens.
He's a hold.
Josh Adams, 78.4 fantasy points, running back 56.
Sell him if you can. This is like Corey Clement 2.0, except he was better as a runner, but didn't get used in the passing game.
Oh, yeah. Back-to-back weeks, 12 and 13, before his usage fell off a cliff. Did not rush more than 15 times in the last 4 games. Did not go over 50 yards in that time frame. Just 36.5 yards per game.
And in today's game against the Bears, 1 carry.
Yeah.
Yep.
You may have already missed
Wendell Smallwood again and Darren Sproles.
You may have already missed your sell window.
Jalen Samuels, 77.5 fantasy points, running back 57.
In big capital letters, the Steelers do not use 2 backs.
So he is your Connor handcuff.
I was going to say, if you have James Conner,
he's
I'd go
good.
out and get him. Otherwise, I'd be selling him to the James Conner owner and see if you can get...
Yeah, the receiving
Pretty
press
penny
was
for
there,
him.
though, like we thought it would be. 26-29, 199, 3 touchdowns. So that was good. Only 6 targets prior to the Connor injury, though.
Yeah.
Rashad Penny, 66.9 fantasy points, flashed a little bit, but never got the full workload.
Injury plagued. Wonder who said that would happen. He was beat up, though. Firm backseat to Chris Carson for now. He saw double-digit carries just once and only 12 targets on the year. He flashed. He showed the speed we knew we had, but the concerns we had with him were also very real.
Yeah.
He's got to learn some running back traits too.
Got to stay healthy.
Justin Jackson, 53.6 fantasy points. This was a late season come on for him.
He's pretty buried with Gordon and Eckler healthy, though. He did flash some of his opportunities. He had traits we liked in college. It showed some of the traits we liked in college with the shiftiness specifically. 50 yards in 3 of the 4 games where he was given a planned role and 2 touchdowns. But as long as Eckler and Gordon are there, he doesn't have a role.
Yep.
All right. Probably the actually no, one too early here. Chase Edmonds, 53.1 fantasy points. Just basically he's just the Johnson handcuff, right?
Yep.
He's
all he
annoying.
is. He's
That's
very
what he is.
annoying.
All right. Second most disappointing player in the class for us, Jordan Wilkins, 52.1 fantasy points.
See, here's the thing with Wilkins, though. I don't know that he was that disappointing so much as Mac was not disappointing. For Wilkins, he had the best yards per attempt rate among his rookies, which was very surprising to me. Colts offense was hot garbage when he had his chance early in the season. That's the thing I think people forget. When Wilkins had the chance, Colts offense wasn't doing shit. But yet, so 3 games under 3.5 yards a carry, but all those were early. After that, his rookie season was 5.6 yards per attempt and 16 to 17 in the receiving game. I still think there's some hope for Jordan Wilkins. I don't know that it necessarily comes with the Colts because he flashed a bit.
Yeah, I think the concern is here that even Mac may not be safe if they bring somebody else in.
Yeah,
There's rumors about Le'Veon Bell circling them, and I think that would be a dumb decision for them to eat up that much cap.
I don't
on
see
Lev
them.
Bell.
I mean, they've got 120 million though. They can
I
basically
still-
go get whoever they want.
I still don't see them spending the money just from what Mac has been able to do for them.
Well, I mean, if it's not Bell, then maybe it's Coleman, maybe it's Ware.
Why?
He
They
can
still
bring
need-
in a back.
yeah.
There's no reason for him
Yeah,
to.
I mean, you can draft another receiver. You can get a guy. There's defensive players they can still bring in. I just don't. There's no reason to spend money on a running back for them.
Yeah, I think they're going to pay somebody. Trenton Cannon, 40.2 fantasy points. Didn't really do much. Wasn't even able to outplay McGuire at this point.
The whole Jets backfield is they're gonna bring in somebody to compete again for this starting job. Trent Cannon's buried.
Yeah, I think it'll be Crowell and whoever they bring in this year will be the one. Crowell will be the 2, and then they'll bring in somebody to be the 1.
Telling you, it's Le'Veon Bell.
It's gonna be Bell. I fully agree with Hopper here.
All right, Jeff Wilson Jr., 38.4 fantasy points.
Flashed a bit, had some fumbling problems, wasn't necessarily high on our radar. You have McKinnon coming back next year, and Matt Breida, who was very, very good when healthy. So
how much of this is just that if you're running back on Shanahan's offense, you should be owned and probably started if you're the starter?
Yep.
a lot of it, is Alfred Morris even looked good after Wilson hit the doghouse.
Kalen Ballage, 34.2 fantasy points, which I think half of that was on 1 carry.
Pretty much.
It was.
A lot of there is some intrigue to him, but his flaws definitely showed up, and he couldn't ever beat out old man Frank Gore for any sort of work, and even
Or Kenyon Drake.
or
who,
Drake
you
or
know,
Perry
like-
even had some work.
or,
and
yeah,
Ford
or
and-
Cinereese Perry.
Bolden, so there's some project there, but with the entire offense moving and changing, I don't have a lot of hope for him.
Ronald Jones, 17 points.
Jesus. Jeremy McNichols 2.0.
And I think there's a little more there, but man, this was ugly.
What a terrible draft pick,
And just the team just didn't seem to have any idea what to do with him.
because he's not a pass
Well, they know what
catcher.
to do with him. I mean, well, maybe not. But
Well, they don't seem to know what to do with running games in general.
Peyton Barber was
He was okay.
okay when he should have been okay.
Daryl Williams, 14.6 fantasy points.
Nothing.
There's, I guess, a certain level of opportunity there, but
Because he may be the 2 behind Damian Williams if they don't address the running back position this offseason.
Yeah, I can see them
Mhm.
bringing somebody in, or at least for the draft again.
Tevin Coleman landing spot.
All right, first running back or second running back we didn't really watch. Dontrell Hilliard,
Who?
Who?
running back for the Browns.
Exactly.
Wait, didn't really watch him. I'm pretty sure this is a good reason why I didn't watch him.
Yeah.
I still don't know who the hell he is.
He was the third running back after they traded Hyde.
Yeah,
He beat out Matthew
yeah.
Days.
Yep.
That says a
Still-
lot.
Still not ringing a bell.
Anyways,
All right, Keith Ford, Buffalo, 11.5 fantasy points.
all these guys are going to
Don't
all
care.
buried.
John Kelly,
Hurts my heart, but
Yeah, I wish he had gotten more work when Gurley missed and
then they
Malcolm
gave it
Brown.
all to C.J. Anderson.
Malcolm Brown was hurt and they signed CJ Anderson, which is an indictment. So I still believe in Kelly's talent, but he's got to rise to the top.
he likely needs to leave. Have a chance.
All right, Mark Walton, kind of similar feelings for me. Only 10 fantasy points in 6 games played this year. He had a chance when Mixon was hurt and he couldn't do anything.
I don't know what Gio's contract situation's like, but he could have something if he can secure that role after.
I'm just
Gio
going to wait
leaves.
and see who lands in Cincinnati, and then I'll go from there.
Yep, exactly.
Detrez Newsome,
It was Chargers running back, right?
Yep.
Yes.
He was firmly behind Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson. That got proven.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a workhorse during the preseason, and then flashed ever so slightly with his couple chances. But again, his opportunity's buried.
All right, and then Rock Thomas and Mike Boone both finished with about 6 fantasy points each. These are both Vikings running backs behind Murray. Murray could be a cap casualty.
If Murray is a cap casualty, it'll be interesting because I thought both were very good in preseason.
I thought Rock Thomas is he practice squad for them now?
Mhm.
Yeah. Mike Boone intrigues me if Murray's not brought back.
See, I'm on the flip side. I like Rock Thomas more through preseason, but we're just debating things right now that probably aren't immediately going to matter
more
or
just pointing
imminently
out.
going to matter.
Yeah.
Then David Williams was the last one who scored any points as a rookie. He's on the Jaguars behind, I believe it's he'll be behind Fournette and maybe Hyde next year.
If Fournette's there next year.
If Fournette's even there.
I don't-
Who knows? David Williams, your week
I
one
don't-
starter.
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will be, but we'll see.
I don't trust anything that has to do with Jacksonville's offense right now.
Yeah, me either. All right, a couple guys who are missing due to preseason injury that had some hype. The big one, obviously, Darius Geis. We expect him to be probably, a third or fourth round pick next year.
He'll be back. He'll be healthy. He should be a third rounder.
He'll hype the third round.
Yeah.
Starting fourth and hype to third.
I have no reason to not believe in the hype, though.
Oh no, I love Darius Geis. There's gonna be people out there that are gonna use this whole complications with the surgery, his post surgery shit that he had. But like, I'm firmly buying Darius Geis.
He
Wait
tore it
till-
preseason. I'm not even worried.
Well, there's
Yeah.
those after his surgery. He had some.
We'll wait and see
Stuff,
what
but-
he runs into with OTAs and that type of stuff. But it was an early injury.
Yep.
And I think he'll be back next year. And I think that he should be owned. And I think that he has a chance to be a running back one that you're probably going to get at a value.
And then Chris Warren, the third.
You guys loved him. I picked him
did.
up everywhere to see what happens, but
Depends on what happens with Lynch and Doug Martin, who's in his 30s, and we'll
It's-
go from there.
It's not a non-zero chance he's the starter next year.
No, it absolutely is not. Lynch's contract is up. I think Doug Martin was on a prove-it deal, and again, wrong side of 30, so it's not a non-zero chance.
it's an
that he's the
outside
starter.
chance. This is where Le'Veon Bell falls to.
Also, that would be my preferred spot.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
prefer it, but yeah, I'd see that.
Beer review.
All right, Dan, what did you think of the Wells Banana Bread you brought on the show?
I like it. A lot of banana. It's pretty crisp, fresh. You know,
I think crisp is your favorite
crisp.
used to word to describe a beer.
Well, if it does it, I'm going to use it. So, but it's good.
Yeah, I love Wells Banana Bread. I've had it many times before this. I will say, I only ever want one at a time because it's an overwhelming taste of banana bread. So by the time you get done with your first can, you're like, all right, I'm switching to a
I want to change my
non-super
palate a little.
fruit beer because my palate's getting a little overwhelmed here.
Yeah.
It tastes exactly like liquid banana bread, especially
Yeah.
off a draft, though.
Yeah, it nails the flavor exactly. So it does a good job there. It's exactly as advertised. So in terms of it being what it's trying to be, they nail it, and it's been around for a few years now.
It's a pretty well established and popular beer in terms of overall. I get asked about it a lot in work, so
Yeah, as you should. It's a good one.
Yep.
And how was your odd side ales, Hopper?
Very, very drinkable. Aromas of coffee and dark chocolate. The maple syrup to me balances out the bitterness though a lot. So you get the aroma, you get the flavor, but you get the pleasant flavors. Even though the maple syrup doesn't necessarily jump out as a flavor in this beer, I don't necessarily taste the bacon really at all. And on the finish, you get some of the spice that you get in rye whiskey, some of the more cinnamony and nutmeggy, like baking spices type of flavor that comes out of that. So overall, very, very drinkable, very, very good. I actually had you leave a drink of it left for the beer review because I almost finished the damn thing before we got through the first half of the show.
yeah, it's so good.
All right. Well, thank you for both Oddside Ales and Wells for jumping on the show. Let's go ahead and jump over to wide receivers here. Only got one who broke 150 fantasy points, and that was Calvin Ridley, who mostly did it on touchdowns. He finished with 174.8 fantasy points. He was your wide receiver 16 games played, but he scored 7 of his 10 touchdowns in 3 weeks early in the season and was pretty quiet after that.
Yeah, he came out hot through the first 4 weeks. Then he proceeded to give you only 3 startable games after that. They do have the Falcons, that is, do have an add-on Sanu in the offseason. 10 touchdowns is promising. 69.6 catch rate, promising. Overall picture was good for Calvin Ridley, even though the game-to-game performance was not. Just watch what happens with Sanu in the offseason, then adjust accordingly. But if he can progress, it's interesting.
Even if they get rid of Sanu, though, I wouldn't be shocked if they bring in somebody else who's on a similar level of Sanu. And I think ideally, when you own Ridley, you want him to be your wide receiver 3, and occasionally give you a wide receiver 2+ week.
You want him at like for me, you want him at best to be a flex option. Like in a dynasty league, you don't want to rely on him as an every week starter.
No, and even next year, you don't want to rely on him. I'm not saying that he couldn't.
No,
be
I know.
that, but I'm not going to call for him to be that.
No, I think there's some upside. I think there's some things to like. This offense was very, very good this year, and he was wildly inconsistent, especially post his touchdown breakouts.
Yeah, once Julio started scoring touchdowns, he really quieted.
Only one receiver can catch touchdowns there.
There can only be one.
There could only be one. But again, rookie season and really 5 to 7 targets. If Sanu leaves, that's going to go up even if it's just a hair, that matters.
It does.
All right. Coming at number 2 is DJ Moore, 129.5 fantasy points, wide receiver 38. I liked the progression we saw from him through the season where he went from being a kind of a gadget player to taking over as the wide receiver 1 by the end of the season in this offense.
I do too. He like Calvin Ridley, didn't necessarily put it together majorly consistently. He had a couple bad games even after he took over. But
well, how much of that was that's when Cam's shoulder gave
that's
out?
Also that's what I was going to say. It's also when Cam's shoulder went out, so he did produce despite that. And I think what you saw out of DJ Moore was promising, and he's a guy that, again, in the same vein as Ridley, you kind of want is your wide receiver 3 flex type of guy that has some major upside coming in next season. And I think Moore's upside is even higher than Ridley's. That's why we ranked him ahead of him.
Oh, far much more.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Moore, too, is he kind of did what I expected, where I didn't have a huge ton of expectations for him to do anything as a rookie, but I expected to kind of see some progression as the year went along, and that's exactly what we got out of him. So he's growing.
And Devin Funches is a free agent this season.
And
they're coming in. I don't think they'll bring him. I think
0% chance they bring him back.
I don't think they bring him back, but they could bring another big body guy. That's something that Moore isn't. It's an true outside, type of.
Yeah, but
guy.
Moore will have his role, and he'll be fine.
No, I still want to go out there. I want to, see where the owner is on him if I want to buy him or not. So I have a lot of intrigue in DJ Moore.
Yeah, don't sell him.
Yes, that is the correct answer.
All right. Cortland Sutton, 115.3 fantasy points. He was your wide receiver 50. Kind of the concerning thing for me, though, is most of his production came before injuries knocked him out, and he had to take over the number 1 role.
He was banged up while he was considered the, number 1 in that offense. So I still like what we can see there because he did flash a little bit, especially in that last game against Oakland.
He flashed, but to me, this could be a Corey Davis, Mike Williams type of career arc to where the talent's definitely there, but it's raw talent and it's going to have to be developed. And he's a guy that you may be looking at as more of a year 3 breakout than even a contributor next year. I mean, a lot of that depends on what happens with Sanders. It was a rough injury for him. He's older and they have an out on him. But, really what happens with Cortland Sutton, it could be not an immediate payoff.
Yeah, because you still got to figure out who the quarterback situation is going to be like. Is it going to be Case Keenum? Are they going to bring in another guy? Are they going to draft somebody this year?
The quarterback
maybe?
of the future.
Yeah, I know. He's got to stay out of jail, though. So we'll see what happens with Sutton.
All right. Yeah, I agree on Sutton that I don't necessarily see a year 2 breakout for him. I would be not surprised if it does take till year 3 for him. Antonio Callaway up next, 108.8 fantasy points. Shout out Cal Richardson for this one. Catch rate was kind of atrocious for a stretch there, but he did make some really, really big plays on this Browns offense.
And he was targeted early and often. I think the Browns like Antonio Callaway. I think that the Browns are in need of some wide receiver productivity. Jarvis Landry disappointed, and I think that Callaway, the talent has always been there, and this is an intriguing guy going forward. I think that he might be a little boom busty for you, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a guy that you want to own in best ball. If he can stay out of trouble, he's got a little bit of Martavis Bryant to him. A lot of talent. He was a guy that was hyped coming out of
a really good comp.
He was a guy. He was very, very hyped coming out of Florida. But again, it's the off the field issues that he needs to be. He needs to not be the new Josh Gordon or Bryant.
Yeah, if he can get his shit together, though, and keep his nose clean this offseason, I could see him possibly progressing into the number 1 role in that offense because Landry was not super effective trying to be the one.
I still see them bringing in somebody just because this season's so stacked, or this draft class is so stacked for that. But he's
and also, Dan, Callaway's got more of a Tyreek Hill build without the same athleticism, so he's better suited as a secondary guy.
Yeah, I don't see them being. I don't think he'll be the true number one, but I do see him being a Will Fuller type of big play kind of guy that's going to give you some big boom games. Deshaun Jackson stands out with that too.
All right. Anthony Miller up next, 103.4 fantasy points in 14 games. He was another guy who's real touchdown dependent and scored 7 touchdowns for almost half his fantasy points.
The Bears offense needs to progress for Miller to be relevant again. They like him. They handed him the job. He has looked gritty. He's looked good. I mean, he dislocated his shoulder twice this season and played through it. He didn't miss a game. So, they brought Taylor Gabriel in. I think Miller still has a decent future with the Bears, but that offense needs to progress a little bit more and be a little bit more productive before he's fantasy relevant. He's a hold for me.
Yeah, like this is a guy that you got to see the grit that we saw on tape. Why I fell in love with watching his tape and why I fell in love with him through it. I think he's got some upside to him in this offense that the offense can continue to progress, as Hopper stated.
All right. Wide receiver one of the future for the Arizona Cardinals, whatever that's worth. Christian Kirk, 102 fantasy points this year. Wide receiver 58.
I still don't know that Kirk is a wide receiver one build. I like Christian Kirk, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that he might be the wide receiver 2 of the future for the Cardinals. Either way, if Fitz retires, he's the guy. So he's worth the own. I'm not going to clamor to go out and buy him. The athleticism's in question. He was relatively productive before he got hurt. So,
all right. Anything else to add, Dan?
No, I expect them to draft the big target of the future for Josh Rosen in this draft.
You think they keep Harry in the desert?
Whether it be Harry, whether it be Hakeem Butler, whether it be a tight end and Noah Fant. So somebody there.
Trying to French it up too much.
Yeah, right.
Up next, we got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 90.3 fantasy points, 15 games played. Did we miss the sell window on him already?
No.
I
don't think you did. I think that Randall Cobb is going to leave. I think that Valdez-Scantling is going to progress. Remember, he was a more raw prospect with good athletic traits, and I think that him rising above ESB and burying Jamon Moore was very, very good. I think there's going to be some competition with Jake Kumaro for the 2 there if Cobb leaves, but ultimately, I don't think you missed the sell window on Valdez-Scantling, especially in this offense. You
don't think they bring anybody in?
No. There's too many holes on that offense and defense, especially offensive line a little bit. That defense needs a lot of work. I think they like what they got. They drafted 3 receivers. I think him and ESB and Jake Kumaro are going to be the guys that are going to fight for that new 3 job there.
You got to let them develop some, and I think that Valdez-Scantling was more raw than ESB, and the fact that they trusted him more than ESB and used him more than ESB is a very, very good sign.
All right. Dante Pettis, 90 fantasy points in 9 games played. To flip the question, did people miss the buy window on him?
They might have, but again, people might not realize how good Pettis was because the overall picture doesn't look great because he missed a ton of time. But Pettis taught me a valuable lesson. First off, don't fade people because of what consensus says, because I was very high on him. He was a wide receiver 5 in the stretch of games he actually did play, with or without Goodwin. Goodwin. He proved his versatility playing out of the slot and as a speed role. Just 2 drops. He was number 1 in the league in target separation at 2.38 yards, 81.8% true catch rate, 5th in yards per reception, while ranking just 78th in air yards. So he created most of that on his own. The peripherals on Pettis were good. Everything you saw in Pettis was good, and I think he's productive in that offense for a while to come. But I don't think people necessarily will realize that yet. So buy him in the offseason because it might be your last chance.
I fully expect San Francisco to bring in somebody.
I don't think they need to. I think they got their guy.
I'm not saying they need to. I fully expect them to bring in a bigger outside type of receiver, something that Pettis isn't. I like Pettis. I think he can thrive in an offense as a 1A, 1B type of situation for them. This could be like what the Broncos had in Thomas and Sanders.
All right. Up next, Traquan Smith, the ultimate hot cold guy. Wide receiver 71 in 13 games.
He is Katy Perry.
It's just upsetting to me that you didn't have more consistency out of Traquan Smith after he was given the opportunity that he had with the quarterback that he had. Cameron Meredith is expected to be fully healthy next year, and I don't know that Traquan Smith necessarily did enough to secure his job as much as we like him.
No, because we got to see the Saints pass the ball around. I think when the offense finally shifted, Breeze, gave praise to him, and then you got to see it kind of fall. The drop started to show up, the big concentration ones.
Yeah, you liked him so much, he grandstanded for Keith Kirkwood to come up and start.
Yeah, the issue is if he doesn't break out next year, he may miss his Breeze window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have no clue what happens after that.
All right. And then got probably 4 more guys we're going to spend a bunch of time on, and then we'll speed this up. Robert Foster, 83.2 fantasy points, blew up in the second half.
I got to spend time on Robert Foster. As a wide receiver, 23 weeks, 10 through 17, 4 games over 90 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 or more targets over the last 4. But first in target quality rating, which puts a premium on catchable deep balls, a.k.a. Josh Allen's strength. Second in yards per target, first in yards per reception, first in average target distance. Basically, him and Josh Allen are a better love story than Twilight. He's 6'2", so he's big enough to play outside. He has 4.4 speed. I think if you don't own him, you buy him.
I want to own him in best ball. I think he's going to throw out some duds. If you can buy him for what he should be worth, I think people are going to see what you just said and just fall in love with him. You have to pay up for him if you have to try to buy him. I'm not as convinced in that entire Buffalo offense, but there is a lot of intrigue and upside to him.
Like I said,
I think
Josh Allen, it looks like a match made in heaven.
There's also a 0% chance that this doesn't have some sort of shakeup this offseason for this offense.
I fully expect them to bring in somebody. They need to for Josh Allen's sake.
Whether it's a tight end or another receiver, they need another pass catcher there.
Yeah.
But, hey, the rapport is there and the skill sets match.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree. There is a lot of intrigue there.
All right. Guy who looked like he might be the future wide receiver 1 in Dallas until the Cooper trade, and that's Michael Gallup, 79.2 fantasy points, wide receiver 77, but had a couple flash plays.
We all said that we liked him as a 2, so I'm glad that they brought in somebody because he flashed even with Cooper was there. I think in terms of air yards, they almost matched each other, so he was getting used. Dak missed him on a few big plays that could have really, propelled them. I love Michael Gallup coming out. I love Michael Gallup in this situation, so I'm going out and buying him if I can.
It's a 71.7% true catch rate, which takes into account catchable targets to only a 48% actual catch rate. So that does say that Dak missed him a lot. He's not great at gaining separation. The contested catch rate was a little low, which is sad because the contested catch rate is where I thought he was going to succeed because his body positioning was so well coming out of college. But I agree with Dan. We always like Gallup as more of a future wide receiver 2 than a 1.
All right. Then we've got Kiki Kuti, missed one guy. Deshaun Hamilton, 51.3 fantasy points, wide receiver 104. He basically didn't get work until later in the season after Thomas got traded and didn't get any serious work until Sanders went down with his injury.
I'm buying him because I think him and
Sutton.
Well,
Patrick.
Keenum build that nice rapport. I think he's a guy that's going to flash and be very productive next year.
I agree completely. I don't have anything to add to that. That's my thoughts on Deshaun Hamilton exactly.
Keenum definitely loves his slot receivers.
Yep. And I think if Sanders is not back, Deshaun Hamilton's very, very intriguing as a 2-3 type.
Very popular sleep option.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then Kiki Kuti, 48.7 fantasy points, wide receiver 108 in 6 games. He could not stay healthy, but he flashed when he was.
Will Fuller.
He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Him and Fuller, they've got to stay healthy, and then I think they'll both be ownable, but they've got to stay healthy.
All right. We've taken way too long on this episode, so just name 1 or 2 other guys on the list you want to quick talk about here.
Tim Patrick is one I want to talk about, and that was it for me for wide receivers. Weeks 14 through 17, he got to showcase his Adam Humphries a bit, 40-plus yards and 5 or more targets those weeks, although it was no touchdown. He looks to be the third option if Sanders is jettisoned behind Hamilton and Sutton, but overall, I think he was a guy that did show a little bit.
And then for me, I guess ESP and James Washington, I like the situation that they're both coming into next season, especially if Antonio Brown does get traded from Pittsburgh. We've seen the track history, what Pittsburgh can do with their receivers. So I love James Washington by. Then with ESB, it's just you're playing in Green Bay's offense. If Cobb's gone, there is a lot of competition for two, and I believe in the talent that I saw from ESB that could eventually, hopefully, overcome, and he can be the number 2 to Devontae Adams.
All right. And the two I want to talk about is going to be Trey Quinn, who put up 9 points a game in his 2 games played.
Oh shit! I forgot about my boob.
So he's a solid option to take a look at as a possible stash play. Hopefully that Washington offense can get its shit together.
There is nothing in Washington right now, and Trey Quinn Flash is Mr. Irrelevant. They trusted in him.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one with very likely no more Deshaun Jackson and possibly no Adam Humphries next year. I like Justin Watson a lot.
Justin Watson, let's go.
All right, let's quick run through some tight ends. Starting off with the guy who got the most noise this year as a rookie, which was Chris Herndon. Finishes the tight end 15 as a rookie in 14 games played, which was very solid.
I'm actually going to do my best to speed this up. I'm going to talk about him and Mark Andrews at the same time.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Do it.
Both guys were over 500 receiving yards as a rookie. Other notable guys to do that since 1990, Rob Gronkowski, George Kittle, Dwayne Allen, Aaron Hernandez. So as long as they don't kill anybody, they should be fine. Tony Moeki, somehow. Evan Ingram, Jeremy Shockey, Dustin Keller. Some very standout names on that list. And the really fun part to me is that these guys did it as bottom 3 in target getters amongst that group. So Chris Herndon and Mark Andrews are very, very efficient with what they were giving. Andrews kind of rose to the top in Baltimore, as I think everybody here knew on this show knew that he would. And both of these guys are guys I like as late season options that show that they can do it, especially given that company that they have as far as rookie tight ends with over 500 receiving yards go.
I want to buy both of them in Dynasty, no matter what format for tight ends, because they have a bright future within their offenses.
Yep. I like both a lot, and I think from what we saw this season, Andrews is way ahead of Hurst in that offense.
Well, he's ahead of everybody in that entire group, as he should.
All right. Up next at number 3 is Dallas Goedert, tight end 20, and Mark Andrews was tight end 17, by the way.
Yeah. Goddard's going to always be blocked by Ertz. Ertz is out. If Philly wants to use it, it's in 2020. I think they can take a 6-point-something dead cap. 2021 is more likely going to happen unless Goddard...
which would be the last year of his rookie deal.
Right.
Yes.
So it doesn't really help them any. Goddard is going to be better served on a second team. It's a Greg Olsen type of situation, unfortunately.
Or something happens to Zach Ertz.
Yeah, if Zach Ertz is out for any, even today, like he was bouncing off tackles and looked fantastic. If Ertz misses any length of time, absolutely, I'm all over Dallas Goedert. And you want to own him, but I think it's a Greg Olsen situation where it's his second team where he really becomes elite.
Yeah, if you got him in Dynasty, it better be deep rosters because you're going to be holding for a while.
Hopefully you have a taxi squad.
All right. Ian Thomas came on late, 10 games played, tight end 25.
Tight end 6, weeks 13 through 17 after the Olsen injury. He was playing with a gimped Cam Newton also during that time frame. But major improvements from his early season stretch. He's kind of like Josh Allen in that regard, to where it was night and day difference between what they did at the beginning of the year and what they did at the end of the year after some bench time. 2 touchdowns and over 40 yards in all of but one game in that stretch that he got to actually start. And even without starting, 10th in red zone target share among the position, 15th in end zone target share, 8th in catch rate and true catch rate, 7th in separation. So to me, he proved that he has all the talent, all the ability to be Olsen's heir apparent. He's a guy I liked a lot coming out of the draft. I think you own him in Dynasty because when Olsen is done, it's Ian Thomas's world.
Then only one last one I want to spend time on. We can just mention anybody else we want to real quick. Jordan Thomas with 55.5 fantasy points, tight end 32. I was not expecting him to be the highest scoring tight end for the Texans.
I still think it's a wasteland of a position over there for them, but there's intrigue if he can take over the number 1 spot.
Yeah, or if they move on
Watson's
from
shown
Griffin.
that he can use tight ends, but a lot of concussions and over there that can be earned for him.
Yeah. There's nobody else I wanted to talk about tight end wise at all, I don't think. I think
maybe Disley might be something.
We could
Disley
mention
could be something. He's still got to progress. Schultz is buried with what Swaim and Jarwin have done, and I think Jarwin's kind of got that on lock.
you could mention Kaseki because the guy
Yes.
he had a massive profile coming out. He basically matched Saquon Barkley in terms of the combine. Extremely raw. Everyone knew this. So when you drafted him in your rookie drafts, it was a draft and wait, and hopefully you saw something. There
I
could be
did want to
something
talk
there.
about Gesicki. Miami just didn't use a tight end,
Yeah.
so we can wait and see what lands there because he could have a much, much bigger second year and definitely a third year. But Miami, just in case Dow Logans, they just don't really lean on the tight end, and that offense was a wasteland. So the offense reforms, expect more out of Gesicki.
So Gesicki's a buy low for you.
Yes.
It may take a couple more years, but if you're gonna buy him, I'd buy him now and hold and wait.
All right, that's all we want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Sorry for the long episode, guys. We just wanted to spend a lot of time on those guys. We spent 7 episodes on them, previewing them before the season started. So wanted to go ahead and spend some time recapping them now, give you some more thoughts on what we saw out of their first season. Next week we'll be back and we're going to do the same thing with sophomores. We'll probably trim that list a little bit more because there's more guys we can safely discard off the list when they're sophomores and we've had 2 years of tape on them versus just 1 year where guys may have been buried. So thank you so much for listening. We got Christopher Hopper down in St. Louis.
At Hot BFF with DPS. Thank you guys for joining. We'll catch you all next week.
Dan Third to my right.
Theory BFF. We'll see you guys next time.
I am at Nick Sparts. We are Beerfield Fantasy Football. Find us at Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Welcome to the 2019 version of the podcast, and we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.
Peace.